Hello everybody, happy Halloween. Are you in the spirit? To be honest, I'm not really somebody who celebrates Halloween or is excited or particularly enjoys Halloween, but I do love any excuse to release the horror genre on everybody. So I definitely wanted to recommend a couple of horror books that I think you should read if you're not necessarily into horror. The first one is the more relaxed horror of the two if you're not ready to dive right in just yet. And I'm going to recommend Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. So this story is about two boys who have spent their whole lives together and their whole childhood. They've always done everything together and basically been kind of the same person. But now they're going through a rite of passage into manhood and they're starting to see differences in each other. As the story begins, a circus comes to town that they both become very intrigued with. As they start to notice all these odd things happening around them, they have to learn to get along and get through some obstacles together. It's very much a story about rite of passages. So as I kind of said, this is a more relaxed horror, but my favourite thing about this book is how beautifully it's written. It takes a little while to get used to because it's just so melodic. It really feels like you could be just reading music lyrics. It really flows nicely and it's quite zippy is the only word I can think to describe it, so it does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's so exciting while you're reading it. Felt quite a lot of adrenaline going through it with all the descriptions, and I could really feel what the boys were feeling in the situations they found themselves in. The story isn't mega scary, but it is very much horror. I don't know a better way of saying it. It has certainly made me a little more anxious when I look at carnivals and circuses. The second one I'm going to recommend I've actually talked about on my channel before, but I really, really love this story and I think it's so worth everybody giving it a go. That being said, it is more horror than the Ray Bradbury one. The book I'm talking about is Rose Madder by Stephen King. This story is about an abusive relationship between Rose and Norman, who are wife and husband. Rose realises she needs to escape Norman and runs away. The story is told from both their perspectives, so you get this perspective of Rose trying to make her escape and Norman who chases after her. This story has a lot of very vivid images in it, which for me is what made it so haunting. It's very realistic, it's very scary. It starts with a bang. It's kind of like a dark romance. It's got a lot about obsession and physical abuse, but I also find it quite charming. Again, it's very exciting. It's very hard to put down once you start it. So these are the two that I would recommend having a go with, either if you're just getting into horror or you want to go deeper into horror. This year I've been reading The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'm about am I halfway or am I 2/3? I'm reading it for a book club I'm a part of, and also because the Netflix series has just come out. I'm really enjoying that so far. I think I'm about maybe just over halfway through it. Really need to finish it so I can discuss it with book club, but that's really great. That's more of a classic horror about 4 people who go to a haunted house. That's all I can really say so far because I've obviously not finished it, but I am enjoying it. After that, after I've finished everything that I'm reading at the moment, I'm going to try Dean Koontz' The Funhouse, which my mum picked up for me because she just happened to see it. A couple of months ago I read Midnight by Dean Koontz, and that's the first Koontz I've ever read. I wasn't entirely sure if I enjoyed it or not. Definitely not at the time, but since finishing it I do find my mind keeps wandering back to the story, so I'm thinking I must have enjoyed it because keeps coming back to me. Like, I remember it quite vividly. Koontz is obviously a well-respected writer in the horror genre, so I thought maybe it was just that story. Maybe I needed to try something else, and this looks really creepy. So I'm excited to try this and see if it's any different. It looks quite, even though the book physically is quite chunky and big, also this is not how I imagine Kunst to look at all. It does look actually like quite a quick read, so I guess I can update you. If anyone does have any other horror recommendations, then leave them in the comments, or if you've read this and can tell me whether it's good or not, whether you enjoyed it, don't ruin it for me. So I'm going to continue with The Haunting of Hill House. Here I go.